Welcome back to all of you. Today we are going to see chapter number 1, the sources of Indian history. In the previous classes, we have understood Indian history, a brief introduction to Indian history as well as to Karnataka history. Today, we will study how can we study this Indian history and Karnataka history. What are the sources that will help us to study about Indian history? So, before mentioning what are the sources of Indian history, let me mention you what is the importance of source and what are the sources of study of Indian history. Let us begin with a small definition of Indian history. History. History is a record of past events and achievements of man through the ages. History is a record of past events of man or the achievements of man through the ages. So, these achievements and the events cannot be replayed or reproduced. We cannot make them happen once again because already it has taken place. It will never happen in the same time and space. Therefore, we cannot sit and record it. It is already happened. The record that is available is very, very less. So now, the historians try to reconstruct that past event based on the available sources. So they collect different materials and construct that past event and write history or mention the records. So there is the conclusion: no source, no history. Without source, history cannot be written. So there is a 2 marks question for the exam. No source, no history. Why? You can mention the above 3 points. How do we get these sources? And how should we collect these sources? And what is the use of it? Discovery and collection and interpretation of the sources are not easy for the historians. It poses a great challenges to the historians. Especially a country called India, it's an even more greater challenge because most of the events, human events, have become imaginary and legendary stories. And Indians basically lack a little more historical sense, It is very difficult for the historians to write Indian history without a proper sources. Therefore, Indian historians should have a proper knowledge of the sources and also a perfect knowledge of ancient Indian languages like Pali, Prakrit, Sanskrit. Along with that, some regional languages and their script. The scripts like Kharoshthi and Brahmi. So once you have a deep knowledge into these languages, scripts and the sources, you will come to know about Indian history to a smaller extent. Again, you should have a good knowledge or a deeper knowledge into Indian tradition and culture essentially. Without that, you can't write. So, sources and their languages, and the scripts, and also Indian tradition. Combining this, we can bring forth history of India. So, the history of the world or history of India can be classified into 2 parts based on the availability of sources. Based on the availability of sources, the history has been classified into how many parts? 2 parts. So, the first one is prehistoric age, the second one historic age. Prehistoric age, historic age. Prehistoric age is an age or a period where the written records are not available. When the written records are not available, when you construct history, that is called as prehistoric period. Historic period means you construct history with the help of written records, or when there is availability of written records, it is called as historic period. So, give us some examples, sir. Prehistoric period and historic period. The Metal Age as well as the Stone Age as well as the Harappan civilization, the Metal Age of Harappan civilization, Copper Age, doesn't have any written records. Even if we have a written record of Harappan civilization, so far not yet deciphered with a unanimous conscientiousness. Therefore, after Vedic period or arrival of Aryans, we have written records. From the point of view of Vedas, from Vedas onwards, we have a written records to back non-written records also. So there is written records and non-written records are both available in the historic period. In the prehistoric period, only non-written records, that is archaeological sources, are available. So the sources of history classified into, so history has been classified into two parts. Again, it is a 2 marks question. Write or mention the difference between prehistoric period or historic period. So mention the difference between prehistoric period and historic period. It is a 2 marks question from the point of view of exam. Again, mention the two classification of sources of history. Mention the sources of history classified. So there are two classification. One, archaeological sources. The other one, the literary sources. Entire sources of a history has been classified into two parts: archaeological sources and literary sources. So today we will study completely about this archaeological sources. So what are the archaeological sources? What are the archaeological sources? Archaeological sources are the remains of the past of human life and activities. So it is the past human life and activities. Even past human skulls, bones, skeletons, the relics, seals used by man, the jewelry, the tools, inscription, building, pottery, household articles, everything, even weapons, paintings, all that falls into archaeological sources. So I am going to mention you. So it is remains of the past human life and activities. Archaeological sources are the remains of past human life and activities. It includes human relics, artifacts that are belonged to from Stone Age till now. So what are the important archaeological sources? Again, a 2 marks questions. Mention some of the important archaeological sources. They form the coins, jewelries, tools, seals, inscription, remainings of buildings, the monuments, what you can call pottery, household articles, terracotta figures, fossils, weapons, paintings, whatnot. Except written records, all that comes under archaeological sources. Even the bones, the skeletons, you can see all of them I have mentioned here, the inscriptions. So all that helps in building the history from the point of view of archaeology. So archaeological sources becomes the only source of history when the written records are not available for the writing history. So history can be written only with the help of archaeological sources when the written records, not at the times written records are not available. Any written records of that time when it is not available, only archaeological sources becomes the main source of history writing of present time. They are very authentic. They become very authentic if the written records are there. They are like a double proof. written records along with that available archaeological sources both match, they authentify the event. Means they double 100% correct. So they authenticate the information when the written records are available. When they do not have, that becomes the main source. When there is a written records, they become authenticate the information of written record. They prove that this is the related to the written record. So they authenticate. Thus, archaeological sources provide valuable, authenticate, useful information to reconstruct history. So who provides valuable, authenticate and useful information to reconstruct history? It is none other than archaeological sources. So archaeological sources have been classified into various sources. How do we get these archaeological sources? So the first point I would like to mention is excavations. Excavations. So excavations is scientific digging of earth for unearthing sources. Excavation is a 1-mark question from the point of view of exam. What is excavations? Excavations, scientific digging of earth. So by adopting, employing scientific methodologies, the length, width, the measurement and the technology, scientific technologies are used for digging the earth, not just digging the earth in the agriculture field. And for why are they digging? To unearthing sources, for unearthing sources. Unearthing means to bring the sources which are hidden under the surface of the earth, bring them out and study them. So therefore, excavations help us to reconstruct the prehistoric age in a better way. So excavations are the sole source. Excavation is the only source in studying Indus Valley civilization as well as Stone Age. We don't get other method. So by excavating, we discover archaeological sources and study about Indus Valley civilization. So excavations are presently done in different parts of India like Tiruvannamalai, Madurai, Archimedu, in some parts of Hampi in Karnataka, Ballari district, Taxila in Pakistan, Gaya, Pataliputra, that is present Patna, etc. places it has been done. And after excavating, we get a sources. And how do we come to know that particular archaeological remains belongs to a particular age? So particular archaeological source belongs to which age? How we will come to know? So that archaeological sources after discovering, found during excavations are put to scientific test by carbon-14 or potassium method to ascertain the age and the time of that remains. What is called scientific testing by carbon dating is, it is carbon dating means or carbon-14 means it's a determination of age or the date of particular object or organic matter from a relative proportion of carbon isotopes like C12, that carbon 12 or carbon 14 that it contains. So it is first developed by this carbon dating is first developed by University of Chicago in 1940. Late 1940, they developed the University of Chicago in America by a scientist called Willard Libby. W-I-L-L-A-R-D, Willard Libby, L-I-B-B-Y. So this is a person who was first time invented this method. This method is a beautiful method, a still developing method to make sure the fossils that this available archaeological sources belong to which age. So properly we can mention of that time. The second one in the archaeological sources is monuments point. Second one is monument. Monuments are the structures, they are the structures or the sites of historical importance. So, in the history, a particular event or an importance can be mentioned through these structures or the sites. What are the sites or structures that are built in the past, like forts, kotegalu, palaces, that is Aramanegadu, caves, ಗುಹೆಗಳು, temples, ದೇವಸ್ಥಾನಗಳು, ಬಸದೀಸ್, ಜೈನ ದೇವಾಲಯಗಳು, ಜೈನ್ temples, statues, ಶಿಲ್ಪಕಲೆಗಳು, stupas, the Jain carvings and viharas, Buddhist viharas, etc. are the examples of monuments. These are the examples. So again, 2 marks question. What are the examples of monuments? Like forts, palaces, caves, temples, basadis, all of them have been given to you in the form of pictures also. Where do we find them? So you can say forts of Rajasthan, the temples of Khajuraho as well as the Tamil Nadu, the caves of Ajanta, Ellora, Halebeedu, the Konark temples, Beluru, Halebeedu temples, or in Hampi temples, the statue of Gommateshwara in Shravanabelagola, the Buddhist statues or viharas, stupas in various parts of Andhra Pradesh, in Amaravati or Nagarjunakonda or at Gaya, we can see them. So there are various heritage sites in India that help us to understand the culture and heritage of India. So these are some of the monuments that help us to understand Indian culture and heritage. The third one I would like to mention under archaeology is the coins. The study of coins is known as numismatics. It is again a 1 mark question. What is numismatics? Very simple. It's a study of coins. Let me put it very elaborately, little scientifically. Scientific study of coins, especially ancient coins, is called as numismatics. The study of coins, what does it help us in constructing history? How does the coins help us to study history? Or numismatics, how does it help in studying history? The study of coins help us to understand the period, the dynasty, the economic conditions, the religious, the script, and the language used on the coins. So it is whole and whole. It helps us to know about that period, that dynasty, economic conditions of the people. Not only that, it also gives us extra additional information of that time, the metallurgy of that time, the metal used and the metal scientific usage we will come to know. The artistic ability of that time, the people of that time who lived, how artistically they could make these coins with the available metals and mixing various metals. Trade relations. If you have seen the coins that are found in different parts of the world, we can mention that these coins were the form of trade relation. If the coins are plentifully available in a particular place, means till then the extent of the empire can be found or the kingdom can be found. So coins help us in different ways. So mention some of the coins issued by the dynasties. You can see the coins of Gupta age, the coins of Shatavahanas, Yadavas, Vijayanagara, some of the best examples of the coins issued by these dynasties. The coins of India are made in gold, silver and copper. These are the metals especially used. Even bronze is very, very less. The gold, silver and copper coins were used in making coins. So we have an image of this. So different shapes of the coins, different script, artistic ability, and the dynasty to which it belongs to, the language, the title, all that is seen, you can see and you can study. And from there we are going to the point 4, that is D, painting. So paintings gives us a clear picture or a vivid picture of culture and religious social aspect of that time. So the paintings gives us vivid picture of the culture, social and religious aspect of that time. So paintings are the picturization of that socio-cultural aspects of that time. So without paintings, it becomes very difficult for us to reconstruct. You can see the different paintings under your screen. Paintings are found in Ajanta caves that depicts the royal classes, pageants, dances, dresses, hairstyles, celebrations, historical events, all that has been painted. You can see some of that. So the dances, the Shah Jahan and Mumtaz, and the assembly and the celebration and the statues, royal class, how do they, the pageants, all that has been, the dance, the dress, hairstyle, all that can be seen, or therefore we can say that it gives a vivid picture. So one of the example that I can give you from the Ajanta caves, that is Pulikeshi's second receiving ambassador of Khusro II. Khusro II is an ambassador, comes to India, and he gives a gift to Pulikeshi's II. So that has been painted. So the Pulikeshi's II receives a ambassador. So when he receives a gift is handed over, that entire scene that is there below the event, point number 3 below that, it is given there. You can see this painting is there, the original painting is there, and the black and white painting is beside that. So that is, and the next one is finally point number E, inscription. The study of inscription is called as epigraphy. Epigraphy means study of inscription. It's a futuristic general knowledge question. What is epigraphy? It's a study of inscriptions. So inscriptions are the most valuable, reliable, authentic and direct source of in writing history. So inscriptions are most valuable, reliable, authentic and direct source in writing history. Why? Why they are most valuable, reliable? That would have been comes to us. So very simple that is. In the third point I can say that. So they are, or inscriptions are generally contemporary and related to the event. Contemporary and relative to the event. For example, if the king has built a temple and made an inscription, it is contemporary. Contemporary means the inscription has been made at the time when the temple was built. So it is belong to that same time. Plus, it is related to an event, construction of a temple. I am giving you an inscription, pillar inscription, Allahabad pillar inscription, and pillar at Meruli, iron pillar at Meruli, which speaks about, Allahabad pillar speaks about the conquest of Samudragupta, which is very authentic and contemporary, made by Harisena in Sanskrit language. So inscriptions are always engraved on rocks, stones, on all walls also, or terracotta seals, or sometimes you can see on an iron pillar, which is even today is not been rusted. The inscriptions are engraved on the stones, rocks, walls, terracotta seals and iron pillars. So there are some of the copper plate inscriptions also. You can hear them when we study about history. There are copper plate inscriptions also are found. And most of these inscriptions are written in of these languages: Sanskrit, Pali, Prakrit, Kannada, Tamil, Telugu, all these languages. So there are more than 75,000 inscriptions have been found in India. How many? 75,000 inscriptions are found in India. So these inscriptions contains details regarding the event, what happened, sale deed sometimes, decrees, announcements, donations, if the king has given some grants chronology, so one by one, so this event is the first, next this is the event, so they give chronology. Sometimes kings' victories, conquests, all that has been given on the inscription. So therefore inscriptions can contain this information: 1, sale deed, decree, donation, chronology, victory of the king, etc., etc. All that the inscription gives. With that, we will wind up the class. And before we end up the class, it is again a 5 marks question. So, fifth 5 mark question states, write a note on the importance of archaeological sources in reconstructing the Indian history. So, if you mention these many points, what is inscription, what is archaeological sources? Next, excavations, paintings, coins, monuments, and inscription. If you mention so many things, that would be sufficient. And additional details about inscriptions are, one of the oldest inscriptions of India is Hantigumpa cave inscription. Hantigumpa cave inscription. It is in Orissa. The king of Orissa at that time was Karavela, who made this inscription. The other important inscription that comes to us is Allahabad pillar inscription. The idea of writing inscription, the idea of writing inscriptions starts with Ashoka. Therefore, Ashoka is mentioned as the father of Indian inscriptions. So, most of the inscriptions, oldest inscriptions, belong to Ashoka. So you can see Saranatha Stupa or pillar inscription, or cave in rock and pillar inscriptions, major and minor rock edicts or inscriptions, you can say. So Halmidi inscription, you can say, Halmidi Shasana, that is first Karnataka inscription of Kakuska Varma, belong to Kadamba dynasty. All that, Aivala inscription, the Allahabad inscription of Samudragupta. So there are plenty of inscriptions that we will see in the time to come. So we will associate each dynasty, each king with respect to their inscription, the coins, the paintings, the monuments. So we will mention everything in relation to that dynasty. When we speak about those dynasty, always keep an open-mindedness. These archaeological events along with literary sources also appears when we study them. So these things mention the 1 mark questions, already have mentioned when I discuss what are the 1 marks questions that comes in this unit, and 2 marks questions, as well as it's a 5 marks question. So I have made it very briefly, this question. If there is any queries, let me know it.